Hello and welcome back to Into the Pit. Up for discussion today, the Big Four. Now, if you watched the media lately, there's been quite a few things. Dave Mustaine has sort of called out Metallica to get another Big Four tour going, and sort of, yeah, as if it was sort of up to them to organize it. I don't know, but it's probably a matter of scheduling and all those kind of managerial things. On the other hand, a lot of voices have become louder, especially this year. I've seen it very often with people saying, listen, Metallica, get out of the Big Four. You're no longer metal. Go tour with U2 or someone else or other rock bands, and let us find someone new to fill the fourth spot in the roster. Now, you know, the Big Four: Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer. Slayer have retired, so there's another question there. Who is going to fill that spot? Or is it like, was it also Mustaine? I think Mustaine called out Slayer to come out of retirement for one last blast. So lots of things happening. And then I've been part of many debates, albeit often as a silent, just a listener, of people saying, you know, who would be a worthy follower for the fourth slot in Slayer, or for Metallica in that matter, either or. And voices have gotten louder. I mean, there were some ridiculous recommendations for, you know, really good bands, but bands that have done one album or two albums, and it's, you know, like, it's called the Big Four, you know, and it's, I think originally it was, you know, the best four performing bands, you know, in terms of live activity, albums, sales, probably a big factor, and drawing the crowd, kind of, you know, drawing potential. But yeah, there were a few, obviously, you know, people mentioning bands like, you know, Heathen. I mean, they've only now come back. They've only done like 4 albums, I think. And like I said, a few bands mentioned that even had way less albums. And while I can really understand the fandom and the you know, sort of amazement about the band and the real die-hard feelings towards the band, it doesn't really warrant that position. But a few other bands have come, you know, have been discussed and been thrown around, and I've also read about it in the media, and probably the most mentioned are Testament and Exodus. And if one looks at their release roster, you know, I've counted the albums. Exodus have brought out 11 full studio albums. I mean, just purely creative studio albums, not Let There Be Blood, where they're re-recordings, no best ofs, nothing like that. So 11 for Exodus, Testament 13. Now you can argue back and forth. What counts for Exodus? Exodus is probably, yeah, not probably, but one of the thrash pioneers. There's a lot of argumentation about, you know, had Bonded by Blood come out earlier, what status would they have had now, and but you can't deny Bonded by Blood is one of the building blocks. It's part of the DNA of thrash metal. So that really counts for Exodus. On the other hand, a very strong Bay Area band came out with a furious debut, Testament, you know. Probably technically one of the best debuts to come out of the Bay Area. And yeah, what counts for Testament? Quite solid repertoire, quite solid discography. I mean, personally, if you think The Ritual was a bit too sort of hard rockish for Testament taste, but on the other hand, they've done albums like Demonic, which is, wow, you know, that's like death thrash almost, you know, and they've done Low, really heavy for the time. Came back with another album called The Gathering with Dave Lombardo on drums. Very heavy album, that, and they've sort of stuck to their guns since then. Alex Skolnick came back into the fold, whom we would have thought would have drifted off into, you know, after Sabotage, into just virtuosidom, and sort of in a Marty Friedman way, just doing his own solo stuff. But no, Alex came back and joined the thrash fold, and they've been churning out thrash albums crazy the last 10 years, and really some solid work. I mean, not always as memorable as probably their early stuff, but you know, Brotherhood of the Snake, Dark Roots of the Earth, Formation of Damnation, Titans of Creation, there you go. quite solid. I actually made a mistake. I counted in Testament's First Strike Still Deadly, which is a re-recordings album. Okay, so we're at 11 for Exodus, 11 releases, and 12 for Testament. So that's very tight. So let me know what you think. I mean, which bands are out there that could fill that slot, you know? I mean, either should a Metallica step out? I mean, but I doubt that. I actually doubt it. I mean, as much as I've often, sometimes, depending on my mood, wished for it, but on the other hand, it's probably rather going to be a case of who fills the Slayer spot, because I just don't... I see Kerry walking on stage, I don't see Tom doing it, and I see Kerry walking on stage with his new band, but that's not going to happen. Apparently, the moniker is Blood Rain. I hope not. Yeah, but that's another topic. So, which other bands come to mention? I mean, Flotsam and Jetsam have brought out quite a bit. They've got that link with Jason Newsted, so yeah, but they probably haven't been as solid as the aforementioned two bands. Who else is there? Overkill. There's someone else mentioned Overkill the other day in my friendship circle, and yes, wow, an institution when it comes to the genre, and always bringing out fairly solid albums. There's a lot of bands. Somebody even mentioned Nuclear Assault, but for me, you know, that's their sort of... They were going strong at some point towards the 90s, and then sort of fiddled out a bit. I think they did another album which kind of went under the radar, and so it's really interesting, and what a weird, what a strange topic actually, because I mean, number one, we don't have any influence on it really. I mean, it'll probably be a decision amongst the bands. But nevertheless, still interesting to see. And I guess for bands like Megadeth and Anthrax and whoever else, it'll probably obviously be beneficial if Metallica says, yes, we're doing this big four, and because of exposure, of course, and because Metallica just can't seem to do any wrong. I've just heard their new single Lux Eterna, more about that later, but they are still big, and they could probably break wind and record that and they'd still be up there, so that was mean, but so yeah, I can see why bands are interested in doing the big four thing again, and sort of riding in Metallica's wake, and you know, gaining more exposure again and bringing it up there again. But on the other hand, whether everything is as realistic as it is, I think Metallica are going out on a big tour now. Five Finger Death Punch, some other bands got mentioned. I'm not don't have them top of my mind at the moment. But yeah, Lux Eterna came out. It's, for me, all I heard was Diamond Head, new wave of British heavy metal. It was like really going back to the roots, but in a very polished kind of way. So it remains to be seen what the rest of the material will sound like. I've already read comments from people about the cover art, hating it. Yeah, it's difficult. I guess the art director or whoever directed the cover wanted to go for something different and not the cliches. I guess Metallica will not come out with an Illyrian Cantor cover or a Repka or a Dan Seagrave or a, you name it, you know, or Hugh Syme, or no, probably not going to happen ever again. Then again, there have been other other voices have mentioned bands like Sodom and Creator, hence bringing in the German side of things. Creator really having grown to a substantial size in terms of a thrash band, and another German band that has always been sort of delivering and doing quite well is Sodom. So then you could obviously list it down to the big four of German thrash, you know, like Destruction and Tankard and those kind of bands. So it's really an open field, and it'd be interesting to see what your opinion is on that. I think if anything, it would be Creator, because they've sort of had the strongest and most solid repertoire of the German bands, I think, in the long run. Me personally, I'm probably more of a Sodom fan, but also interesting to see. And then there's obviously the British market, you know, you have bands like Sabbath, Onslaught, those kind of bands. And another band that some people have mentioned is Sepultura. So I'd like to hear your comments about it. Which way do you think it's going to go? Well, there's several things. Should Metallica just FO out of the big four and join the rock ranks? Or should it just be replacement for Slayer? Or hell bent for fucking leather, should Slayer just come back and open the gates to hell one more time, one last time? So, interesting to hear your comments. Let's see. Let's take it on. If you like my videos, hit that like button below and subscribe for many more reviews coming up and some interesting topics as well. If you want to support me, you'll find all the details below. So, check you next time.